When I play Sejuani top, I want to be not only a good Sejuani, but also a good top laner. So I need to find a balance between good damage and good tankiness in every stage of the game to be able to fulfill my role and contribute to victory. In this video, I'm gonna show you the builds that I use to reach this goal. In early game, a good top laner is able to win lane and put pressure on the enemy top, so he can get top prio and make rotations to propose fights, participate in objectives, and get vision control. Maybe you won't be able to win your lane every game, it is fine, but if you never are able to win your lane, you aren't being a good top laner. To be able to put pressure on the enemy top and win the lane, Sejuani needs extra damage. Some tanks can win fights just by start checking the enemy with base damage. Sejuani is not one of these tanks. There are only 6 tank items that give extra damage, but there are only 2 small items that can increase your damage in laning phase. These items are Bami and Shin. So the best mythic item for Sejuani top is Iceborne Gauntlet. It gives good damage, good tankiness, good utility with the slow, and it has a good build path. I personally build it every game, except in 2 situations. My most standard build is Gauntlet, Fimbulwinter, Stoneplate. This build gives you a good balance between good damage and good tankiness, making you a good duelist, able to win many 1v1 fights, and also a good front laner, able to tank the enemies in teamfights. If the enemy top is an AP champion, but the enemy team has some important physical DPS, I build Gauntlet anyway, but I change my build path. So I buy Magic Resist, Health, Tear, Shin, and Gauntlet. Upgrading Shin to Gauntlet doesn't increase your damage, so delaying the mythic item won't harm much your dwelling potential in early game. If the enemy team is 5 AP champions or they have just one AD champion but with low DPS, Gauntlet loses value because it only gives armor. So in this situation I build Bami, Force of Nature, Fimbulwinter. Bami gives damage, less than Shin though, but Bami also gives extra wave clear, jungle clear, and health, and it is a cheap item too. Now let's talk about new legendary items. Sunfire. This is a bad item. It deals damage, but it has a very short range. In this anti-tank meta, the enemies will beat you easily if you just auto-attack them, being in top of them. Sejuani can win teamfights and duels in mid-game, but she needs to use her mobility, CC, and disengage to kite the enemies. If Sejuani kites the enemies, Sunfire won't deal damage, so this item is contradictory for her. Abyssal Mask. This is a bad item. Sejuani only needs one mana item and Fimbulwinter is better. The tankiness that Fimbulwinter gives is much higher than the small damage and sustain that Abyssal Mask gives. Remember that Fimbulwinter also makes you deal damage if you have Shield Bash. Randuin's Omen. This is a very good item. Since this item came to Season 13, I never built Frozen Heart again. Frozen Heart can help your team because it reduces the damage output of the enemies, but now Randuin gives a big slow for 2 seconds. This slow is extremely good to guide the enemies, to peel your teammates from pet divers, and to chase fleeing enemies. Turbo Chemtank. This is a bad item. This item only gives engage and nothing else, and Sejuani doesn't need more engage. She needs tankiness and some damage. The items that I usually consider after getting my core build, Gauntlet Fimbulwinter, are Stoneplate for max tankiness, Thornmail for enemies with strong healing, Randuin for auto-attacker enemies, Force of Nature for magical DPS, Spirit Visage for some overall tankiness with extra shields and extra damage with Shield Bash, and Anathema's Chains for targeted damage reduction and tenacity reduction.
I will not tolerate weakness. Shut down.
If I use my build of Bami, Force of Nature, Fimbulwinter, my next items can be Spirit Visage for extra damage with Shield Bash, Stoneplate for max tankiness, Jackshot for max tankiness after Stoneplate, Radiant Virtue to heal my teammates when the enemies aren't focusing me in teamfights, Solari versus Cartus R if there isn't another Solari in my team, Michael's Blessing when the enemies have long range CC to make pickups on my teammates, like Lilia ER, Zoe E, or Ashe support R, or Anathema's Chains for targeted damage reduction and tenacity reduction. Now let's talk about Heartsteel. Heartsteel looks like a good item because it gives good stats and deals damage, but I don't like that item mainly for 2 reasons. Reason 1. Heartsteel gives damage only when you complete the item. So if you try to build it, you will have only extra tankiness, but no damage in laning phase. If you try to fight the meta breezers that have high sustain, high DPS like Darius, Fiora, Aatrox with just tankiness, you won't have any chance to beat them, and your chances to win the lane will be greatly reduced. You need to deal damage to be able to beat them. Reason 2. Heartsteel gives much health but zero resistances, so it makes you very vulnerable to percentage HP damage that is very common in this meta. If you have much health but low resistances versus this, you will be melted in seconds. Having low tankiness will greatly reduce your duel potential and your teamfight durability. Now let's talk about Demonic Embrace. Demonic Embrace is a good item because it is the best item to deal damage. But usually you or your team don't need that much damage. This is a situational item that works very well when you don't need more tankiness, but that happens like one of every 50 games, so don't consider it as a core item. If you want to deal damage, please never build Titanic Hydra. Demonic Embrace is better because it deals more damage, especially more burst damage.